Okay, I am John McCullough, and of the Spanish church Vencedora Asamblea, also means Overcomer Assembly.
My name is Bishop-elect Shirley Sanders. I'm the pastor of Greater Deliverance Ministry here in Pine Bluff.
We also have with us two aldermen. Stephen Manny's fourth ward alderman of the great city of Pine Bluff. Glenn Brown, third ward alderman. All right, and other ministers.
Jimmy Muhammad, I'm a representative of the Honorable Louis Farr here in Pine Bluff.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin. Earlier this year, Pine Bluff experienced 2 homicides in less than 7 days. This is unacceptable to these ministers up here, to the pastors up here, to the people who are gathered here today. And this is a cancer in our neighborhoods that prevents business, people from coming to Pine Bluff, and some of the other final things in life that we may want. The ICVR Respect for Life campaign began in 1997, and we have concluded that approximately 176 murders have occurred in Pine Bluff today. Of those homicides, 99% were blacks killing blacks. Our research shows that the average age of the individual is approximately 26 years old, and the average age of the victim is 30 years old or less. 99% of those charged with homicides were male. 1% were females. Committing crimes and homicides and violence can only lead and land these young people in prison. However, as Arkansas's lead pen or pencil affiliate, the ICVR aims to change all of that. We are working in partnership with all faiths in Pine Bluff, as witnessed here today. The National Alliance of Faith and Justice in Washington, D.C., the United Way Worldwide, the National Cares Mentoring Movement, and the Association of Black Psychologists. This summer, this fall, we will implement an aggressive plan in Pine Bluff to reduce high school dropouts by half in 2014. The combined high school dropout rate in Pine Bluff, at Pine Bluff High School and Dollaway, is 34%. Therefore, we have targeted youth in 3 middle schools and 2 high schools to launch the ICVR Respect for Life pen or pencil initiative. PEN stands for penitentiary. We don't want our young boys or our young girls to end up in the penitentiary. We want them to choose the pencil. Pencil stands for education. This is what our goal is. These schools, Bel Air, Dollaway, have issues that we want to address. The individual, environmental, school, and social factors which place these kids at high risk, particularly those that are insubordinate, those who fight, those who are disrupted, and those on suspension. ICVR plans to increase the number of male mentors, which is a population that's hard to gather. We want to increase the male mentors by 50% over 1 year. We want to increase the number of youth diverted from the juvenile justice system into intervention programs such as freedom of choice and pen or pencil by at least 10%. In the Robert Moorhead Middle School, Pine Bluff, Nottoway High School, Southeast, and Bel Air. We want to provide alternatives to suspension for in-school and out-of-school to assist in reducing disproportionate minority content, because there are too many African Americans that's coming in contact with the law. So we want to change that. We want to expand and strengthen service learning programs, thus educational achievements and civic responsibility. And this will be done on a year-round basis, including the summer. We want to provide the opportunities for their engagement. We want to improve in social studies, civic education, and history of all of the participants who will be working with us. We want to provide sound and high-quality mentoring programs, which gives priority and sustained involvement of youth termed, as we say, disadvantaged. We want to use the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act to do that. ICBR believes that pen or pencil, this effort will lead our young people away from a life of crime and killing, which puts them on track to end up in the penitentiary. We don't want them in the penitentiary. We want them to choose the pencil, which is education. These acts puts them on track to end up in prison rather than get an education and become productive citizens in our city. So the homicides that's happening in our community are things that we can change. The faith community can help in changing that. We're not concerned about whether you're Methodist, Independent, Muslim, Baptist, CME, AME. We have a job to do here in Pine. And I think with all of us pulling and working together, we can make a difference. I am excited and happy to be able to partner with the study group here in Pine Bluff, because I see that they see that there's a problem in Pine Bluff and it needs to be addressed. And they are stepping up to do that. And not only them, but I'm happy to partner with these other ministers and pastors that are up here with us today. Those are my comments. Now I'm going to ask Brother Jimmy. No, I don't, let me do, where's, right here, Mrs. Adams. If she would come and have a word. She's representing Grace Independent.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As I sit here and wonder what to say, I ask myself, how does this affect me personally? I realize this is far bigger than you and I alone. Killing is a power of its own. Killing has the power to destroy the mind, the body, the spirit of anyone it chooses. But it doesn't begin there. The act of killing in itself has to have a willing vessel to carry out such a horrific act. And this goes back to the mentality, the environment, the culture, the economics standpoints of the individual. We have to look at what these individuals were subjected to have their minds altered in such a way. What I have learned by watching and listening is that we have all talk and no action. We have churches full of spirits, but no conscious spirits. That are not able to think for themselves. In Hosea 4:6, God clearly states that we perish from a lack of knowledge. We are so conformed to the worldly knowledge of doing things that we never question and ask why our Creator why, what is required of us while we're here. So we pass on traditions that are not our own to generations after generations, which the cycle never ends. I agree with the families that have lost loved ones, but I also agree with the families of the ones who committed these horrific acts. Because somewhere, somehow, both killer and victim have been let down and led astray. Before these killings took place, there were visible and spiritual signs, cries out for help, but no one paid attention. As an example of the purest form, mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, grandparents, we are not looking closely at our children that the Creator bestowed upon us as gifts. We look at our gifts as burdens. We teach our children that they are weak if they cry, but the Creator gave them tears as a gift, as an emotional relief. So when this gift of crying, as its emotional release is restricted, most people turn inward, resulting to their own understanding. The spiritual aspect is far more damaging if not properly nurtured, because, as one knows, we are spirit beings having an earthly experience. This goes as far as the responsibility as pastors, spiritual advisors. If we claim to serve God in His highest form, in whatever denomination that we choose, that holy connection with the Creator should enlighten us, to guide us to the ones who God sends our way that needs help. But many turn a deaf ear outside the norm of church, all the while our children, now and those to come, are left to fight for themselves. We have a responsibility as creations of the Most High to fulfill. At times, we only focus on the horrific murders that are done in Bluff in the light of those who witnessed them. But it goes deeper than that. What about the countless murders we commit by abortions? Even though the unborn child hasn't made into this world physically, we dutifully execute the child for selfish gain. And what about the slow killers like birth control, pharmaceuticals, fast foods, tubal ligations in women, sterilizations in men, or just gluttony in itself? Then it always goes back to the ignorance of mankind to see that these things are not, that we don't want them to change. Through the brutal attack of one's physical body that results in death, is heart-wrenching and paralyzing. We just can't stop there. The survivors of these loved ones who have passed, and the ones of the people who have committed these horrendous acts, we have a greater challenge that lies before us. Take the moment and look back and evaluate what is it that we could have stopped then that we can stop now. Then that's when truly change can begin.
I'd like to first of all thank Representative for having us facilitate today. I'd like to sort of introduce myself so the public might know who I am and what I'm all about. I'm Dr. Anthony O'Hara, Episcopal ministry, but my ministry is through my non-profit corporation called Coalition of Profit. From that, we have a host of TV programs shown from 5 to 7 days a week, from 6 p.m. to 7 Challenge 24 UAPG, we're talking daily about this problem. So the Bible teaches us that one generation of untrained people will render that people a nation of people. So where I understand is that the lack of appropriate training. So what we're trying to do at School Without Walls is get those African Americans who have more access to our people to get involved. Those are the pastors and the teachers. And of course, if the parents had the skills and ability to do what they should do, we wouldn't have the problem. So I know the family is very important, but it's being destroyed. I believe it's the 11th number of Psalms. on the 3rd verse said, if the foundation is being destroyed, what shall the righteous do? So again, I appeal to the pastors. Pastors, we must do more than we are doing. We must have an outreach in the community to reach these young people. Time is out for us sending money overseas to missionaries to do missionary work. So let me close with this. I want to invite anybody who is hearing me to be a part of this School Without Walls. I interview persons of character. We want every person of character, especially the African American, to realize the power of the Word. There's power in the spoken word. We must speak, we must teach these young people while they're young that the wages that sin pays is death. The wages that sin pays is death. And the gift of God is eternal.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, the one God who is the sender of all prophets, the sender of all truths. We thank Him for Moses and the Torah. We thank Him for Jesus and the Gospel. We thank Him for Muhammad and the Holy Quran. Being a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I cannot thank Allah enough for intervening in our affairs in the person of Master Fard Muhammad and raising for us a leader, teacher, and guide, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and for them too leading us, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with those words, it simply means peace be unto you. Again, my name is Jimmy Muhammad. I am the local representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan here in Pine Bluff. I would be remiss if I did not recognize the individuals that are here with us today. Reverend Turner, we thank you for your presence. Alderman Steve Mays and Glenn Brown, thank you for standing with us. Pastor McCullough, thank you. And Ms. Adams, thank you so much for your kind words. Pastor Fleming, thank you, sir. And Bishop Sanders, we thank you for all of your help and thank you for being here today. I would be remiss if I did not recognize Brother Leotis, who is the individual who helped to start Islam here in Pine Bluff. For me, as a young man of only 33 years old, to stand here over a whole city and represent the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I have to pay homage where homage is due, and we thank you for your presence and still standing with us. Why are we here? Why did we decide to call a press conference? Why do you have so many people in the middle of the day standing alongside us today? Well, one of the things that we look at is what's been happening. And one of the precipitating events that happened was the death of our dear sister, Vanessa Beard. It was due to violent crime. And before I get any further in, I want to recognize Sister Hagar X, who is right here in the green. She lost a son due to violent crime. So we want you to understand today that it hits home to us. And we thank you for standing with us and making certain that no other mother goes through what you go through. In our city has a lot of potential. We have one of the greatest universities, in my opinion, in the United States. We have great leadership, as you can see by our aldermen that are behind me, and our distinguished mayor, police chief, fire, and others. We have a city of roughly 55,000 people. However, with the great leadership, the great opportunity, the great school, we also have some other major issues. One of the major issues is the crime rate here in Pine Bluff. The murder rate in Pine Bluff is almost 4 times the national average per capita. What that means is per 100,000 people, you have a certain rate of murder, and we are 4 times the national average. As it relates to forcible rape, we are 2.5 times the national average. As it relates to robbery, we are 1.5 times the national average. Aggravated assault, we are almost 2 times the national average. And all violent crimes, we are almost 2 times the national average. So when you wake up in the morning and you read the newspaper and you see these various atrocities, you see death and violent crime, one would be remiss if he cared about his family and the condition of his people if he didn't ask the question, who's going to do something about that? And then one would be remiss if he didn't look in the mirror and say, well, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And I'm glad that individuals decided to do that and forced us to come on out here and have a press conference concerning it. We have various community leaders here. Most are from religious institutions, but I will make this statement. Religion, as it is now, has failed our community. What do I mean by that? I mean the mosque has failed, the temple has failed, the church has failed in its current application, because we as religious leaders have been preaching to the choir or to the already converted. The members of our community on their way to church or their way to the mosque or their way to the synagogue step over the individuals who need our help the most on the way to come in the doors. What that means is, well, there's a law. For every cause, there's an effect. Every time we pass by someone, we allow them not to hear a word that may change their life. And if it does not change their life, it may cause them to lose their life. So, the deaths that have been caused and the violent crime that's been caused in Pine Bluff, we have to take responsibility for, because we're the one charged by God to change our community. So that's the reason we're here today, to draw a proverbial line in the sand and say, in our community, this can't continue to happen without us doing something. Well, what are we armed with? We're armed with love, attention, compassion for the people, but we are also armed with knowledge of self. Why is knowledge of self so important? Well, let me help you out here. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that every time he looked at a black man, he looked at God. The reason that was so important and resonated with us is because the way we looked at each other, and the way we looked at each other was inferior. We looked at him, that's my dog, that's my this, that's my that. However, we did not look at him in his true potential. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad reversed the dog and said God. So as we look at another black man, we see God. It's hard to aim a gun at God. It's hard to stab a knife to God. It's hard to fight your brother if you think he's God. So what we want to do is we want to help to rebuild respect in our community. We want to give our people an individual respect for themselves through the knowledge of themselves. That is very important. There is no self-respecting Jew who does not know about the Holocaust. There's no self-respecting Italian, Arab, or various others who do not know their history. And so we want to make certain that we know our history. We want to make sure that we help to give knowledge of ourselves, and that we also help to change the condition of our people. One of the things that sticks with me the most that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said is that one cannot change his or her condition, or God will not change his or her condition until they make an effort to change their own condition. Well, I interpret that to say God will not change the condition of our community just by us staying in the mosque and praying, us being in the church and praying. But now we got to get up and do something. So we made a statement to the world that we're going to get up and do something. And we want you, the community, to hold us accountable for doing what we say we're going to do here today. And we want you to understand that we're going to be coming. And we're going to be knocking on doors. And we're going to be asking you to do things that you may be uncomfortable with. However, we want to say that we believe it's for your own benefit. And it's not just a Muslim thing. It's not a Christian thing. Different bodies here have different resources that can help our community. So we're going to organize those resources, and you may go to whatever group that you feel comfortable with and get whatever resources you need. But we're saying today that we're here for you and we want to stop the violent crime in our community. Thank you for your time, your interest, and I greet you as I came before you in the beginning in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, this will conclude our press conference. Are there any questions for any of us? And we thank God for you all coming in. And this is the beginning of a new partnership, pen and pencil, writing a new history in Pine Bluff. Thank you.